ask yourself why in 1984, 1983, when all of the council houses were sold off, why is it now that you need to get a mortgage? Because you can't, literally 99% of people can't find a means other than mortgage or renting, and renting has become the preferred method to live. You no longer have the rights to your own home. Not your own home. You can't, well, I don't know of a method to get land off the council for building free of charge, even though the council itself belongs to the people. The council was not there before the people. The common ground belongs to the people, and the council are the ones who allocate that. There are countless warehouses now which are empty, huge spaces. You know, I'd love to live in a warehouse and turn it into a home. You know, you could have so much there. You could have your gym there. You can have your jacuzzi there. You know, there's so many luxury items that don't need to be paid for by crime, which crime has become not only the norm, but it's become the societal aim to be in crime and be a crime lord and be involved in crime. And yet the prisons are full. The prisons are full of men. There's barely 2,000 women in the jails, but there's 80,000 men in the jails. You know, you talk about equality, and you know, there's a large quantity of those men who aren't English by a long chalk. They're counted as British because of the, you know, the importation of, well, what was it called? It was called the rights of a British citizen. So if you belonged to the empire, you had the right to come to England. And yet the English didn't get the rights, like the English haven't got the rights to go to the British Virgin Islands, of which there are 40 in the Caribbean. We haven't got the right to go to Belize. We haven't got the rights to go to Cyprus or other British protectorates. But they can all come here and do and prosper. You know, they do fantastically well. The government gives them every leg up that they need, and in fact gives them, like, bends over backwards. Like, it probably seems hard to them, but to the English, who get rated as second-class citizens or third-class citizens, you know, you've got to take into account that we're in a down spiral economy. We don't create anything. Our industries were stripped. When our industries were being stripped, there was a lot of animosity about that. You know, we didn't give it up freely. The unions took over, and the unions were the only people who that the government would deal with. You know, a nice cozy little in-house arrangement there. So the men, if the men spoke up within the union body itself, they would be intimidated, they would be bullied. You know, this is what Trotskyism is all about. The mayor of Liverpool, in the city I live in now, he's been arrested for witness intimidation and fraud. Now, I think that he's a fall guy, because Louisiana Berger resigned. She got out of town fast. She's seen what's coming down the pipe. Louise Ellman's retired, and she retired on the back of the Royal Hospital. The Liverpool Royal Hospital was getting a new build, big giant concern, 800 million. So she was in charge of that, and then the company collapsed. But I can't remember the company. They're from London. That collapsed, went bankrupt. So she asked for another 600 million. She got that. Then she retired, right? And then Max Steinberg, he wrapped up Liverpool Vision. Liverpool Vision is what all this is all about, like why the mayor's been arrested, where the fraud and the witness intimidation must have come from, because that was the mayor, Joe Anderson. That is his little concern, like, and it's ended now. And Steinberg runs an entertainment stadium right on the front where Moshiri. Listen to this. Moshiri is going to build the Everton Stadium, allegedly, on the front dock. You know, this is supposed to be going, it's supposed to be for ages, like years. It's never happened. And let me give you an idea of what sort of monies and bureaucracy that we're dealing with. So on the same place, they were going to build what was called the Fourth Grace, because there's three magnificent buildings on the front. There's the Royal Liver building and the Cunard building, and I can't remember the third one, but there's the Royal Sun Alliance building. I think they're the three. So Deutsche Bank were in the Liver building. That's how prestigious that is. But they soon shut that office down. But it just makes you wonder why they were there. Anyway, so Moshiri has opened up underground in the Liver buildings. The Liver buildings, that whole area on the docks, is not built on land. It's built on bales of cotton, apparently, because it's reclaimed. So during wartime, it's classed as being offshore, and it's classed as HMS Eagle. It's apparently belongs to the fleet of the Royal Navy. And it was interesting because there's a Bank of England building quite near there, Man Island it's called, the pierhead. And yeah, the way Liverpool sort of comes down, it like divots and then comes back up, and then you've got Castle Street, and that was where the original keep of Liverpool was, set up by St. John to invade Ireland in 1207. And that was the formation of Liverpool. Before that, there was no Liverpool. Liverpool was Wavertree, West Derby. You know, it wasn't Liverpool. It was all of the small towns, Toxteth, Dingle. You know, ancient towns. When I went to live in Sweden, I actually landed in a place called Dingle. I was like, hey. Then I find out that all this is all Viking area. The Vikings were raided by the Dutch. Them again, yes. Those Dutch are everywhere, aren't they? And they pushed the Viking Irish out. You know, the Vikings who were living on Ireland. They pushed them out, and they came to live on the Wirral by permission of one of the queens at the time, and then crossed over into Lancashire, Cheshire, Lancashire. Well, I think Wirral was Cheshire. So the crook stroke politicians, they've been outed here. And this is, you know, I'm not spouting me trumpet, but like, it's not half coincidental. Everyone's woken up. Everyone was screaming at the police that these crooks politicians were up to it in Liverpool. But the drugs are still flowing through. Peel Ports is still going. Peel Ports, let me tell you about Peel Ports. So the police, I phoned the police up and I asked them about this the other day, and they put the phone down on me. Because I was saying that the police, who were originally called the Peelers, the Bow Street Runners and the Bobbies, but they were called the Peelers because they were formed by, I think it was Robert Peel. Robert Peel was the Prime Minister of England. So when they became the police, that was under Disraeli, and Disraeli formed the modern Conservative Party with John Peel. So there's the link, you know, the Peelers. So what the Peelers were originally set up for was to protect the merchants in the City of London. Disraeli, Rothschild, that's the City of London. I don't know if Disraeli was an MP of the City of London, but the Parliament buildings is in City of London / Westminster. So I was saying about this Moshiri fella, Moshiri's an Iranian, and his best mate, or mentor really, because like Moshiri's a billionaire, but his best mate Usmanov is a multi-billionaire, and he's married to a Jewess. Now this Jewess just happens to be super friendly with Putin, and who's always in the office with Putin? Henry Kissinger. And what tribe does Kissinger belong to? Well, the same tribe that Louise Ellman, Louisiana Berger, Max Steinberg, that they belong to. So Moshiri only needs to tell, he only picks up the phone to Usmanov, doesn't he? You know, whatever's going on in Liverpool, he's sitting in the Liver building with his safety deposit box business that he's just set up. He hasn't set up the Everton Stadium, which is why he was supposedly brought in to take over Everton. Oh no, he set up a safety deposit box in the Liver building. The head of, I don't know if it's the head of the Royal Navy during wartime, but it certainly becomes HMS Eagle during wartime, because it's not on shore. And that's what I was saying. There's a Bank of England building. Liverpool used to print its own currency, by the way. And it was this in the Bank of England. And the Bank of England's about as English as, you know, Kunta Kinte. The Bank of England is not English. So this building in Liverpool is for sale. It's been for sale for years by Mason Owens. So I inquired about it. I was communicating with an American consortium at the time, and they were interested to purchase it or acquire it. So when I asked how much they were looking for, there was blue ollies all over the place. Because in commerce, it's supposed to be the buyer who offers the price, and you know, the seller comes in and negotiates the bargain. But he wasn't having that. So it's not for sale, actually. Oh no. At least it's not for sale in the real sense. It's for sale in the dummy sense. Well, I got the brochure anyway, and I checked out the all the bump on it, and it said that it's an offshore deal. The Bank of England's offshore. So Moshiri, who's offshore with his little safety deposit box, runs Everton Football Club. Bear in mind that Liverpool Football Club is ran by the same Jewish mafia, but they're doing well. And when I say well, I mean by their measure, they're doing well. They're not doing well by any stretch of the imagination on my measure. So Moshiri sees what's going on. Anytime he gets on the phone to Usmanov, his bird is sitting there at, you know, the table or whatever, says, "Hey love, have you heard about this?" And she goes, "Oh right, well I better go and phone Putin about that, then he can tell Henry Kissinger." See now how it works. Nothing will happen to Joe Anderson. The same thing will happen to Joe Anderson as what's happened to the police over the 96 people who were brutally murdered in Hillsborough. That's what will happen to Joe Anderson. Absolutely nothing. He's a flop. He's a fall guy. They've thrown him under the bus. Nothing's going to get investigated. If there was anything going to get investigated, Louise Ellman, Louisiana Berger, Max Steinberg, they'd all be implicated. Well, they're in Haifa now. They're all partying in Israel. Israel's opened up. They haven't got any COVID there now. The first place on the whole planet not to have COVID. So they've weakened our society, and it's our duty to strengthen our society. And you start with looking at, you know, your physical, your psychological, your emotional, and your spiritual. So your physical, you can pretty much turn around pretty fast. Start drinking more water, you know, get yourself more hydrated, get yourself away from the TV, throw the TV out the window, just get rid of it quick as you can. Start going walking. Walking uphill is really great. You know, take your time. If you're just getting, you know, if you haven't been fit or something, take your time. Try a little bit of walking backwards just to give you a little bit of different understanding of the world. You know, the resources are out there. There's no reason why, what was the saying? There's no reason why anyone should be homeless in Liverpool. Well, there's no reason why anyone shouldn't be fit and healthy. There's no reason why anyone should not be intellectually minded today. There's every reason why everyone should be having conversations with the next door neighbour and people in the street. You know, they used to say don't talk politics and don't talk religion. Well, now they're saying don't even talk to the next door neighbour. You know why they say don't talk politics and don't talk religion, don't you? Surely you worked that one out. Because that's what they run, the politics, they run the religion. So therefore they can attack the politics, they can attack the religion. They become what's known as controlled opposition. They control the narrative. So whenever someone sees something going, well, oh, well, I saw one of them saying that it's not right. Yeah, in a narrow perspective, but why isn't it right? Well, it's not right because he belongs to that group. It's controlled opposition. And you're not allowed to say nothing because you're not towing the party line. There's scandalous things going on. There has been for a long, long time. Now is the time. If any time ever in the history of mankind that there was a time that all this could be stopped, this is the time. We have a great culture, a great legacy and a great heritage to maintain and continue, and we shouldn't let it be ended by crooks, politicians, crooked politicians and crooks. We shouldn't let it be ended by their cultural way, like their, demonic, despotic methods. Just say no to them. Just say thank you, I'm fine. Get on with getting fit, eating well, staying hydrated, get plenty of fresh air, have a nice social life, and look towards being a cohesive group in your nation, in your country, in your continent, and ultimately in the world, isn't it? A healthy body, healthy mind. It's the saying, isn't it? Cleanliness is next to godliness. So you may not be religious in the sense of, you go to church and everything, but you understand what godliness means. Godliness means connected to nature. And if you don't think that it does, well, I'm telling you that it does. So there's a comment section below, and if you want to argue it out, I'll give you who you can argue it out with. Plato, Socrates and Aristotle. 3,000 years ago they had a debate, the God debate, and they worked it out, geniuses that they are. They set the methodology for the Western culture to prosper like that. Why do you think the Greeks were so popular in Rome? So they worked it out that God has to exist. Well, why does God have to exist? Well, the concept of God is that all things belong to God. So there is, proof in the material sense. Okay, so where do your thoughts come from? How does your soul grow? What is your soul connected to? So that those things are God. So when you have a soul, which apparently these crooks and politicians don't, then now we can see the separation between who are the people who have empathy and care and a conscience versus all these crooks who will sit there and tell you day is night, black is white, white is black. They will just continue and continue and continue to lie and lie and lie on your dollar, at your expense, at your ridicule. They will be sitting there telling you you're wrong. Whatever you think that doesn't suit their agenda and their narrative, you, sitting at home watching this, are wrong. That's what they'll say. And you can have all of the evidence in the world. You can have experience of knowing that this thing, that whatever it is that you're saying, like if it was me, I would be saying, well, to build anywhere would take like understanding the ground that you're going to build it on, putting in solid foundations, and then making sure the materials were up to scratch, that you could have a, you know, a beautiful building. That would be me. And I would say, you know, the architecture can be fancy and lovely, and time is not an issue. They won't say that. They'll say, oh, you have to wear a helmet, you have to wear a yellow vest and an orange suit and boots and gloves and goggles and a mask, and you have to fill in the insurance details, and you have to have a card, and you have to, you know, drive to work and take public transport, and you know, the whole thing is all insured in their stock market. All of the currency now is going into their stock market, which lines their pockets. So you can't do anything of your own volition. You can't go out, find some empty land, get some cottage stone or wood and build a shack or something. Oh no, they'll come down with a bulldozer and they will bulldoze through your work. You know, this is a matter of equity and belonging. So they'll say you're a citizen of the nation. So what does that mean? Well, it doesn't mean anything. It means you better do as you're told, because your voice doesn't count. Well, we're coming to the end of that in many ways. We could touch wood, be coming to the end of that. And I'm not saying that, you know, it should be in a volatile way, but we have a country to defend, in so much as that we're level-headed, because we're the most ingenious people in the world. The British Empire was the most ingenious in the world. The engineering is phenomenal. Our people are amazing. You know, they'll tell you that, oh, we're the scum of the earth. Look at the kids. Look at the way how hard-faced they are. Well, they're not being given the true potential. I worked on the Blue Coat Chambers, which is the oldest building in Britain. Beautiful building. You know, I was doing brickwork on there, repairing the brickwork, making it look pristine again, which it does. It looks wonderful. So they've got pictures of the children who were going to school there, and these kids were going all around the world on wooden ships, you know, the sail ships, and they were navigating. You know, the kids haven't lost the biological sense, their intellectuality. They're not being allowed to prosper and to thrive. This is what these crooks and politicians are deliberately dumbing down the society for, because they're trying to eradicate any opposition to their rule. I mean, they have got problems they're all sociopaths and megalomaniacs. You know, I'd like to see them all have psychological evaluations, psychiatric evaluations. Sit these people down with a team of independent doctors who are proven that they know their business. You know, if I could go back in time, I'd say, well, bring Carl Jung in and ask Carl Jung to sit down and give them a psychiatric evaluation. And let's see how the results of that evaluation match up to the actual practice that they're going to work every day, because they're all still getting paid. You can guarantee that. They're all still on, unlimited expenses. So hopefully we're in a time of big change, and the change will be that they all get locked up, they all get put away, you know, all through correct due process of law, not the cockamamie, oh, it'll take 10 years and all these lawyers come in making all sorts of money. Not that process. All them lawyers should be rounded up as well. If they want to take part in it, then they should benefit from that as well. It's about time the military started pulling the finger out, started doing something, and it's about time the people started pressurising the media to start saying about the military getting involved. You know, Harry had the privilege of being high up in the military. Look how that's turning out. It's in free fall, nosedive. He's doing nothing for our country, and yet he's had all those privileges. He's not paying it back, no. Oh no, far from it. He's doing the exact opposite. He's doing everything he can to follow the narrative, the counter-narrative to the narrative that we should be putting forward, which is a healthy society, an intellectual society, or at least led by intellectuals who understand the value of health. We wouldn't need an NHS. People would understand health to a different degree. We wouldn't need medicines per se. You know, there's nothing that you can't get better by the food you eat and the exercise that you do. I was watching again The Pioneer. He said that, you know, these farmers have these super strengths. Well, that's not surprising. They're out in the fresh air all day. You know, the produce they creators of the highest nutritional quality. You know, follow the paper trail, as it were. Why did Louis XIV become a great king? What was the deal? Why does he suddenly become a great king? You know, why does he build the Palace of Versailles with all the beautiful gardens and all the wonderful clothes and all the pleasures that they enjoyed? Why do these things happen that aren't happening today? There's no independence of thought that's allowed to express creativity from a different angle. Every building now has to be made of glass and steel frames and concrete floors. Everyone's getting put into flats. Here's a statistic. In the book, Who Runs Britain, or Who Owns Britain, I think it's called, the guy made a study that since the Norman conquest, only 11% of that land has fallen out of the hands of the landowners who came to England in 1066. William apportioned the land to all the new barons, and only 11% of that in all those 900 years has fell out of their possession, 950 years, whatever it is. And we live on 90% of the people live on 11% of or 7% of the land. You know, we're highly concentrated in cities and towns, and we've got tons and tons of farmland, which obviously is used for sheep and cattle, or was in the past, but now a lot of all that's gone. You know, a lot of the farmers have committed suicide. In the 1930s, Arnold Leese done a study that how many British farmers are marrying Jewish women, and it was, you know, a fair number. So I haven't seen the study myself because it's hard to find Arnold Leese's work, even though he was an accomplished vet and done a lot of study on parasites on the camel, I think it was. So he's an accomplished scientist, but he became an MP in Devon, Cornwall, somewhere around there. And in the 30s, he was publishing magazines, and he was saying that, you know, there's an influx of these people and they're marrying all the farmers. Well, in the 80s, 90s and into the 2000s, all of the farmers have been committing suicide and going bankrupt and losing all the properties because they can't keep up with this globalized way of, you know, getting strawberries from Chile. How does strawberries from Chile cost less than strawberries from Lancashire or Cheshire or Suffolk or wherever? How do they become less expensive from, you know, maize from or sweet corn from Mozambique or wherever? How do these things happen when our farmers have lost their foothold on the marketplace? This is globalism in action. So it's not promoting, supporting and encouraging wealth from within. it's, you know, it's depreciating the value of that wealth until the people look at their life and decide that it's better to end it than it is to continue. So there's the option: get fit and healthy, run your own country, play a part, or don't. And I hope you choose the better one. I hope that you find sense in the reasoning behind this argument that it's better to be fit and healthy, healthy mind, healthy body, all that good stuff. And, you know, wow, what a future that would bring. But we could be living in paradise, be like heaven. You'd be walking on air. Even if you're not religious, I'm sure you sort of understand the concept of like living in heaven. Not that I'm religious. I mean, I've got my own philosophy. I live my life the best that I can. I'm slightly Epicurean in that way. Epicurus was a Greek philosopher, again, kept out of the limelight. But if you read a book on Epicurus, you soon realise that you know, there's something behind this philosophy, what this fellow was talking about at the time. And it gives you sort of like the branches then to cherry pick from the other philosophers and think, well, I'll cut my philosophy of life in this niche, in this way. You know, this is how I want. It's kind of what Jung was doing, you know, and Milton Erickson in a way. You know, he was saying to people like, it'd be better if you got married and had children and had a life. And he's hailed as like the greatest psychiatrist basically since Jung, who's the first psychiatrist, the father of psychiatry. You know, they say Freud is the godfather of psychiatry. Well, let's keep Freud out of it for now, and all his what is it, sexual deviancy and all of his crazy ideas that are counter to the Jungian philosophy, which is why they fell out. You know, why would Jung and Freud, the two greatest psychologists and psychiatrists of the day, fall out with each other, and Jung be the one who's maintains that prestigious pedestal in society, and Freud is just seen as, you know, a sick man fraud, to quote. So I think I've had me say. See you